My next guest is a man of many talents, serving roles in creative videography, radio, journalism, photography, and television. First beginning his professional career as a creative service intern with 6ABC, designing promotional videos and photography for station events. He's currently the first community journalist for Action News, bringing heartfelt positivity to every story he brings and capturing the heart and spirit of Philadelphia and its surrounding areas. Matteo, thank you so much for coming on the show and taking time out of your busy schedule to do this. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. How did you know all that?
LinkedIn, what can I say?
Well, props to you for doing your research. It's an
Oh,
honor to
man.
chat with you.
Just being able to see your stories on social media and also on obviously 6ABC Action News with all the negativity and stuff, especially through this pandemic and everything, to really see a positive shed on the Philadelphia community and the surrounding areas is just so amazing. So thanks for all you do.
There's so much of it. You just have to look sometimes,
You've been doing this since 2017 when you first started off as a creative service intern. What made you first interested in the news and excited about it and something that you wanted to do for the rest of your life?
Channel 6 in Philadelphia is a cultural icon and bulwark and establishment of the city. And so you grow up watching it, you know who Jim Gardner is and all the news personalities that have been with the station for as long as I've been alive. And now that they're my coworkers, it's pretty cool. And they don't like when I tell them that because they feel old. But regardless, I've always wanted to make videos since I was 10 years old. I first got my hands on a camera. YouTube had just become a thing. I wanted to make videos and I started doing that. And I never stopped doing it. In fact, I did it throughout high school. I was on the news every day as a senior. When I got to college, I did the radio station just like you. And so I applied for an internship there, not having any prior television experience, but just knowing that I could make videos, that I knew how to tell stories. And they saw it too. And they allowed me to become an intern with our creative services department. The community journalist position had not even been invented yet. The job that I have now did not exist even when I was interning for the station. And the fact that I was the first one out of the entire country goes to show you how new things and new opportunities are happening all the time. I became the tour guide at Channel 6, but I was also doing, social media work as a production assistant on the side for Channel 6. So I was still making content related to the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. And then the following year, I was hired full-time to be a community journalist. And I guess it worked because I'm here and then coming up on 3 years now doing this full-time.
Wow. With all the experience that you've had, especially through 6ABC, what skills and knowledge would you say you got from those experiences that you use now at your current position as a community journalist?
You have the fundamentals, right? You know how to edit, but you don't necessarily know what it means to edit a good, compelling story. And so you learn that by being on the ground, by meeting people, by making mistakes. So you learn on the job how to meet people, how to interact with them, how to empathize with them. I think is so important to let them share their story in their own words and understand what's important to them so that you know the context and how to shape that when you tell the story, trying to make it from their perspective as true as possible. And that's really the fun thing about it is I get to let people talk without my voice interrupting them. I've learned so much over the last 3 years and I have tallied up over 660 stories.
That's
So
fantastic.
rewarding is an understatement. My role is to show you the story from a perspective that you haven't seen before. So I want to show you that first person perspective of the person I'm interviewing, but I also want to show that person something that they've never seen before.
You did a story about a Philadelphia Phillies vendor, which I've seen at the ballpark plenty of times, and to see that same view that I'm looking at from a different perspective is really cool. How are you able to find these types of stories and perspectives that are in the community?
Well, you get them from being part of the community, right? You meet new people like yourself. Maybe you'll give me a story one day, who knows? But you meet those people and you also make yourself available to them. The thing that you have to focus on the most when you're telling a story is what I call like this triangle of importance, right? You have stories that are about places, stories that are about things, and then you have stories about people, right? Person, place, or thing. Think of a noun. And those are what make a story. And I think that chief among them all are stories about people. Even if they're centered around a thing like the Wildwood Boardwalk, you need to find the people who find that important to them. And that's what the story is really about. So if there's a compelling person behind each story, that's what we're looking for. And that's what people empathize with. That's what people relate to.
Being a native, you were born in Philadelphia, you live in New Jersey. Does that give you an advantage, do you think, being in the area where you used to watch the news and grew up?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I've always said, how do you, I mean, this is just my perspective. So I'm sure that other people who are not from here have learned to love the city. But just for me, how do you do journalism somewhere that you don't love, right? You have to care about your community. And being from the area, having never left home, I'm doing stories about my home. I love the fact that I'm working in my hometown. I know the lay of the land. I know what's important to people. I know what's frowned upon by the people who live around here and how to avoid those certain things. I know how to pronounce the Schuylkill River.
There
So
you go, right?
those are all must-haves on your resume for a Philadelphia job.
You've done 600 stories, right? Which one would you say resonated with you the most, or which one was the most enjoyable to cover?
When I covered a gentleman from just around the South Jersey area, right at a suburb of Philadelphia. And his name is Barney, and he opened up his garage as a food pantry for anyone in need. And he didn't realize how big it would be. It just kind of blew up, and anybody can come in and take food for free. And when I interviewed him, he was so emotional about it. He lost his job as a chef due to the pandemic, and he knew how important food was to people. He had just moved into this house. He has a big family in a small house, and they just vacated their garage and made room for food and drink and toiletries for anybody who needed them. He was just terrific. And that story reached 500,000 people at the least.
For future journalists, people at up and coming journalists, people who want to be journalists like yourself, what advice would you give to them?
Learn how to do everything. There is not one job with one skill waiting for you after you graduate. People are looking for multi-talented journalists, multi-skilled. It's in the name of a lot of these jobs as well. And you have to learn how to do everything from interviewing, filming, camera work, editing, especially is a prized skill nowadays. And the more that you can do, the more valuable you are, because just think about it. If they don't have to hire 4 people, they can hire 1 person to do 4 jobs. So it's just common sense at this point. But the reality is, it's not like an engineer's trade. It's not like a teacher. There's not a slot waiting for you. You kind of have to carve out your own path with your own unique perspective, and using a multi-skilled skill set can help you do that. So learn everything. If you're still in college, my God, take advantage of it. Get involved in everything. Get involved in your radio and TV stations. Meet people. Learn how to do things. Make mistakes while you're in college, because that's a safety net for you that allows you to learn in a constructive environment. And people always say that it's not what you know, it's who you know. But I always say that it's what you know that allows you to eventually meet the people that will help you pave your way in the future. So it all starts with your skill sets, and you don't have to wait for anybody to tell you to do anything either. You don't need to wait for your professor to give you an assignment to go out and interview your local pizza shop owner. Just get yourself some hands-on practice and learn what it's like to tell stories and learn how to do them by yourself. And the rewards will come naturally at that point.
Has there been any advice that you've gotten so far on your journey that has really stuck with you?
The thing that I just always, my go-to for this, and it sounds kind of corny, but when I first started my job, I made like a little video, a PSA about driving on icy conditions. And the whole video was just quote after quote after quote. And my boss was like, that's pretty good, but give some room in there for, you hear the cars screeching and the snow slushing, and just give some of that sound in there. And I'm like, oh my God, like, duh, of course. So sound is so important to a story. So I'm always looking for things that make noise, even if they don't traditionally are known for making noise. Anytime things can come together and create noise, it's one of the 2 senses that you can communicate using audio visual, right? Audio and visuals. But in terms of career advice, I would just say, stay connected with people. I think that you, sir, are a prime example of that. And you always check in on me and ask how I'm doing. And I always appreciate that. And here you are making moves for yourself and stepping up in the game. And here I am speaking with you because I respect you and your work ethic. So that's what it takes. That's what it takes.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your friendship and everything you've done for me. Is there anything else you want to say before we go?
Thank you for having me. It's always an honor to speak. Anyone who's listening to this, more than welcome to follow me on social media and just reach out and say hi, ask a question. It's one of my favorite things to do is talk with people and help them out. We'll all elevate this journalistic scene together, not separately, but together.
Oh man, I love it, Matteo. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. You can check out all Matteo's stories on Action News 6 ABC, and you can also follow him as he mentioned on social media. It's at 6 ABC Matteo on all platforms.